I'm Pat Druckenmiller, and I'm going to talk about an event at the Hi-O project in southern Taiwan. And as happened a lot in our lives, my husband was in a meeting in Chicago, so I was left in the village with this major event coming up. We had a woman named Mrs. Gu. She was the wealthiest woman in the southern part of Taiwan. Her family was one of the 12 really big landowner families in Taiwan who had had all their land taken away in '49 when the nationalists came to Taiwan and took over. But they were given major corporations to run, so they were happy. And the village people got land, so they were happy. So it actually worked out well. But she was a major sponsor and supporter of the project. And she had given us quite a lot of money. And we did things like bought material and made uniforms for the preschool kids. And for the preschool, that was part of what we started in the project. And she was coming for a major site visit the next day, and we hadn't done anything. The village was kind of a mess. I mean, it was a fishing village right on the coast, and also they grew rice, and things were just kind of, the Chinese don't take that good care of their home sites because you don't make money there. You go out, their fields, the rice paddies were beautiful, but not around their house. So the next thing, I'm trying to figure out how we're going to just clean up a little bit. The next thing, all the people come out of their houses with their rice straw brooms, and they're sweeping the streets, and in about an hour, the place was transformed. It looked great. The village mayor had sort of issued an edict. Mrs. Gu is coming and we're cleaning up this place. And they did. And then she came, and she and I went around all, and the preschool kids came out in their little uniforms and they sang a song, and we took her various places, and we showed her a fish pond. It was going to get converted from growing tilapia, I think, and a lot of seaweed, and switch it over to raising giant prawn, which was going to make quite a lot of money, and eventually did. But I was just really nervous about this whole thing. But it went really well, and she was very nice. You meet a woman who's really got a lot of not just money but power, and I was a little bit scared to meet her. And often you think, well, the man that's the project director, not the wife that's the project director, should really be doing this, but he was in the US, so that wasn't a possibility. So think that the event was over, it had gone beautifully, and the only thing left was lunch, and that the villagers were putting on. I had nothing, didn't know they were going to do this. And so we went into the restaurant in the village. It was a seafood restaurant, and there was the usual big round table with a red tablecloth on it, and they had Mrs. Gu sit here. Even at a round table, there's a seat of honor. And I went kind of around this way, and they grabbed me and said no, and they sat me down beside Mrs. Gu. So the two of us were in the seats of honor, and I was somewhat embarrassed by this. Now, we had been in Taiwan a year, I think, at this point, or close to a year. And one of the things I had dreaded before we went there, and had not yet had to face, was eating raw fish. I thought, I just can't bring myself to eat raw fish. But I'm sitting next to Mrs. Gu in the place of honor, and here comes a platter of sashimi, raw tuna fish. And I thought, I am going to have to eat this, and I can't make a face, and I can't have trouble. I have to at least appear to enjoy this. And so I kind of I took my chopsticks. I was fortunately good with chopsticks, and they just come in little squares of raw fish, and it was on a huge mound of shredded cucumber. So I took as much cucumber with the fish as I possibly could and stirred it around in the soy sauce, because I'm not a hot food person, so the wasabi was not going to happen. And I put it in my mouth, steeling myself to just really, look like I was enjoying it, even though I knew it was going to be just awful. and I bit into it, and I realized it was like eating a rare prime rib, which I love. And it was amazing. And I had several slices of it after that. And I thought, there is really no reason to be afraid of these things, because if it's this much of a delicacy and people love it, it can't be awful. And so I didn't lose face in front of Mrs. Gu, and we had a great time, and I think she continued to give stuff to the village, although she didn't visit it again after that as well. Maybe she did after 2 years after we left. But anyway, so when you go to a small village like that, you don't really think about that's the sort of personal lesson that you're going to learn. But it is the personal lesson that you learn sometimes. So it was amazing. In some projects, in fact, in the next project we went to, it always seemed like the staff was very successful. Maybe the village wasn't. We experienced ourselves in Hi-O. It seemed like we as a staff just fell flat on our faces over and over again. And this is what I was worried about. Mrs. Gu coming to the village, and we wouldn't have anything ready, and there wouldn't be any event, and the villagers would just kind of look like, what the heck is going on? And instead it was this huge event that I really didn't have much to do with except go. And over and over and over again it happened in that village. We ourselves thought, oh, we're just a failure. And the villagers brought it off. And we went back in 2014. It's still there. The villagers are still there. They eventually remembered who we were, especially when we showed them pictures on the phone of our son, who was 4, and went to the preschool there and spoke Taiwanese and Mandarin better than English by the time we left. And they were, oh, don't call Baba, don't call Mama, and oh yeah. And then they got on their cell phones, and the whole village showed up, and we had Old Home Week. It was just amazing. And they're very happy. They're not wealthy, but they have TVs. Well, they always had TVs and refrigerators, but now they have computers and cell phones and cars, and one guy in the village has a Mercedes. And they're raising grouper, not prawn, and they're making quite a lot of money. So but they remembered who we were, and we started having just a great time remembering all the old stories and things that we used to do. So that was great.